This is Dave back at you with some spring salmon fishing tips, things that I was using this year that helped me be successful. Um, and I kind of wanted to there's nothing really out there on what to use and how to, there's plenty of rod setups and everybody's showing you, but a little bit more in detail and the whys and the whats and whys and stuff. So anyway, the gear that I'm using. I am a G Loomis fan. I always have been, probably always will be. I think they make a really good rod. It was developed here in the Pacific Northwest by Gary Loomis, and it was meant for our rivers and tributaries. Really good warranty. It's just a really good rod. I've caught a lot of fish on this brand of rods. Don't get me wrong. Buy what you can afford, because people are catching fish on everything. When there's fish there, you can catch them on a broomstick. You know, but this I just like this brand. It's held up. It's been very durable, and it has a lot of backbone and the lengths in them. They come in various different sizes and lengths and powers and different. Just you can go tuna fishing with some of them, and multi-species. So anyway, good brand. I really highly, I think very highly of them, and I use them quite a bit. They're not the only brand that I do use for salmon fishing, because I do have some other. I do use the Lama glasses, and I have some cousin rods, and I've fished ugly sticks when I couldn't afford these upper brands because they're expensive. Um, so it's just whatever you can afford, but sometimes you get to a point to where you want to spend the money on some quality things. Anyway, so what I'm using here is a G Loomis mooching rod, and the model number is an SAMR 1265C, and it comes in a 10.6 moderate action, 10 to 40 pounds. This model, they have different sizes in. I think there's a 9.4, and they have them in various lengths, so you can find out what works for you. Good rod. And the moderate action means that for this fishery, the moderate action on these is because when when a salmon bites these rods, it does not fill the backbone of the rod. It tends to, because they're so limber, the fish can bite it, and it will start swimming away with your bait, and that rod will have enough give to where the fish won't feel the weight of the rod until it starts taking line off of your reel, and then the backbone, the barrel of this thing will actually set the hook and stuff. So very good rod. So that's kind of the actions that they're using, and mainly the type of fishing I'm talking about is the 360 pro troll, short bus type flashers, where everybody's using a pro troll type. They're pro trolling, super baiting, but we're this season for spring fishing, I've been using, because of water temperatures, I've been using a lot of shrimp spinners. So that's what we'll be kind of covering today. Again, then go to my reel. The reel is another line counter. This one is a Shimano Dakota 300 LC, the line counter on it. Bulletproof, excellent drag. This one has an excellent drag. There had been I had heard of some of these models having issues with some of the drags. Fortunately, I had a couple of these that have not had drag issues, but I know for a little while they were having some issues with the drags. But so far these have held up, and they've been excellent for me. Smaller handles on them. The reason why I like these reels for this is because I am not fishing with 100 and some feet of line out the back of my boat. Fishing 20-30 degree water with 16 ounces of weight, 20 to 30 feet of water and with about 16 to 12 ounces of weight, 10 ounces of weight. So 20 to 30, 40 feet of line out the boat is not much. And so if I were to be fishing, with 8-ounce weights, and I had to go out behind the boat 70 feet, then I would probably opt for a different type of reel with the power handle. And I have, another good reel with the power handle has been Bulletproof as I have some Penn Warfares. They're in I think it's in the 15 model. They're smaller. They're a nicer reel, bulletproof, nice drags, a bigger bodied reel, but they're still they hold a lot of line. On that, get into I use a Power Pro, and I use a 65-pound braided line. This is about 20 pounds. If you were to compare this to a monofilament line, it's about 20-pound diameter, but it's 65 pounds, and that allows me to cut through the water a little bit better. There's no stretch in this line. There's no give. So when the only part that has the give is my leader. So anyway, 65-pound braid, and if you don't have to use this rod and reel setup. You can use any rod and reel and count the amount of pulls you go from your rod to your first eye on your reel, and just count them, because that's about 2 feet. So if you go 25 pulls, you're at about 50 feet of line out the boat. So anyway, so that's kind of that end of it. And then we go down to some terminal tackle. I got this still with my rod ties on it, and I'm going to kind of leave it like this because this is a long rod and it's kind of hard to see the actual to show everything. But on that, I have tied to that, I have a T-bead, which I like to put on there. It stops any of the weeds from getting on the back business end of my rod, and onto the hooks and the leaders and the bumpers. So I like to stop it there if I can. So I got a T-bead, and on that I got this is probably a 10 millimeter bead. It's a little bigger bead that I put behind that, just to act as a bumper so it doesn't hit my line lock. This is a VIP Outdoors line lock that was designed by Chris Turvey years ago, and VIP Outdoors teamed up with Chris, and they started making these line locks. And it actually does have a little groove in it. Hard to see, but it has a groove in it, and it locks into the eye of your bead chain swivel. It goes right into there. And what that does is, as you're fishing on your 360 fishing, your flasher and everything's going behind this, it stops that, it going into the weight, going into that eyelet there will stop the line twist from going up your line and making your bead chain actually do what its purpose is to rotate and not transmit that twist up your line and into your reel. So from that, I go to a 6 bead chain swivel to a dual lock. I use a lot of dual locks in my system, have a lot of them. This is probably a size 5, maybe a little bigger. And then I have a bumper. Now you hear a lot of people talking about their bumper lines, and I've been learning more so in the last few years that the bumper length is kind of a bigger deal. So I make my own bumpers. This is a 150-pound tuna cord, and I crimp the ends. I have the ends crimped on here. There's plenty of videos on this as well. I put some heat shrink tube and a bead inside that and shrink it all together once I make my loops, because I don't like any line or anything trying to catch, because once you make that loop, there's going to be a little bit of the bumper line coming through once you're making them, and twist it, and it could be a catch-all for your line and everything. So I prefer to kind of clean it up with using a little bit of heat shrink tube and a bead on there, and I just shrink it all together. Kind of makes it look a little bit more finished. I got it coming this way, and then on this side I permanently affix another 6 bead chain swivel to a dual lock. So that's kind of that. And these bumpers I've made in different lengths. I've made them when I first started doing this, I was using a 30-inch bumper, and then the year before, I went to a 24 and made some 24s, and then I've made some 18s, and this year I'm just using little shorter ones. So they can go, manufacturers are making these. You can get them in 30, you can go them at 24, you can get them at 18. I prefer to make my own because I can vary the size and put whatever I want. If I want a 20 foot or 20-inch bumper, I can make that, and instead of 18, or if I want a 22 or whatever, or 21, I can make this because I have the material to do that. But like I said, I put a bead on them and then some heat shrink as well. So onto this, I have my dual locks, and I've been using the short bus flashers this season. They have multiple colors, and the reason for the different sizes, putting this on, the reason for the different size of bumper, because your weight, if you remember right, on my rod here, I have a line lock. I have a line lock on this side. Let's see, where did it go? I have this line lock that goes right to my bumper. It goes right to my bead chain, and behind that directly is my bumper. I'm using one that's not attached to my rod. So as this is going in the water and it is rotating, the longer you get away from your weight, when your weight will be attached pretty close to this, say my hand's the weight, the closer you are to that weight, the more tail whip and the more rotation you're going to get. Now, if you lengthen that from your weight, it's going to be big, and it's not going to be, it's going to be pretty graceful. But as you shorten that and you get closer to your weight, that will swing out and get a bigger swing. The analogy I use is, because I grew up near cattle, is if you grab a rope and around a steer and you rope it and you try to hold a foot away from that steer, and that head starts shaking and you're right there, you're going to get your arms pulled out of its sockets. It's going to be a violent tug and pull. But if you give that steer longer distance and you give him more rope, 20 feet, you're not going to feel every head shake. So that is you being the anchor, and that cow being doing its thing. You won't feel all that. But if you're closer to that, if you bring yourself closer to that steer and it starts moving, it's going to be more violent, and you're going to have a lot more action in your arms. So I transmit that to a bumper and flasher unit for just an analogy. A kite. If you fly a kite and on a windy day and it's 5-10 feet above you and you're holding on that string, you're going to see that string just whipping around. But if you let it off and get it up there 100 feet in the ground, in the air, your line's just going to be moving just real slow. So, it's just that's the way it is, and that's kind of the way it is with bumper lengths and lines. So you're going to have to play with those. I can't tell you this is the magic number, because it is what it is. I mean, you're going to have to kind of, put some time in on the waters, as I've been told. So, short bus flasher. This year, springers, I've been using, I've been catching with the 2-pole endorsements and, fishing with multiple people. I've been using different lures, and the one of them that has put fish in my boat, and it's probably maybe a 50-50 in my boat with these two lures, is the Max Smile Blades. And I've been using this red color. This initially I bought for coho. This Smile Blade, it's a 1.1 Smile Blade. And I mainly bought this for coho. And when springer fishing came up, and people were using Smile Blades, I modified some of my spinners for springers. And I thought, no, I'll just try it. So what I have is a number two owner. Oh, excuse me, a 2-aught owner. And a number 2 owner hook right there. And then I stack a corky. Now, the reason why I put a corky there is for flotation. You can see it there. I put that corky in there for a little bit of flotation. I don't want it too big, because this will be resistance in the water for my flasher. Then I go to a couple of 6mm beads there, down to a 5mm, just to kind of give it a little bit of taper, onto my 1.1 smile blade. You can use any color. You just gotta, some days they're gonna want to chartreuse and chrome, and it just, whatever your imagination wants, you can use and put together. This is something that I'd happen to have. Ideally, it was meant to be used for coho, but it's been working good for springers. So I've continually been using this. And then using I've been using 30-pound line. I've been finding that 20-pound has not been holding up. It snaps. It's been snapping. So and I knew that. So I went to a 30-pound. And these fish have, these spring Chinook have teeth. So they're going to cut through some of your thinner lines. So they're a pretty violent fish because they're not going to spawn until September. So these fish are violent. When they hit, and they hit hard, they are violent. And so, I got a 30-pound line. People may say it's overkill, but it's bringing fish to the boat. That's all that matters to me, and I'm consistent. I tie these all with 30-pound. I use the same knots, and to that I use a crane swivel. I think this is a number 5 crane swivel from Bomac. And I hooked that up to my short bus flasher. Now the lengths on these things also are going to vary from, I don't want to say year to year, but just something you have to play with. Start out with longer, go down to something shorter. You can start anywhere from 36 inches and end up with guys, I've seen guys just 18 inches. It just depends. So that's kind of I just been playing with this, and it's been working well, especially behind this 360. I got the short bumper and a shorter leader. So anyway, that is what I got. And the reason why I choose, everybody's like, oh, that's a pretty small hook there that you're using. That number 2 hook is pretty small. Well, the only thing I'm trying to do with that is hook my shrimp. I've caught fish, and fish have bit this, and they're a very sharp hook. And I've brought salmon in, spring salmon in on a number 2. They work, but the main sole purpose in this is to hang my bait. And the stinger is the one that will actually be the business end of everything. But they both work in unison, and they work in tandem. And generally, when a fish has this one in the mouth, it's going to have this one in the corner. So it's just double insurance. And so I brought a lot of fish in with both those. So anyway, so that's kind of the smile blade setup. Another setup that I've been using and that's been putting fish into my boat is another VIP Outdoors spinner, and it's the blade, because I make my own spinners, shrimp spinners mainly. So I got 30-pound line, and on that again, a 2-aught. There it is, a 2-aught, a number 2, and then I have 3 6mm beads onto that. Back up there. Onto that, I got 3mm beads, and then I stack 2 5mm beads on top of that as bearings, and then I use these VIP Outdoor clevises. It's a removable clevis. I prefer these. Let me get this off here for a second so I can show you. It is a metal clevis. You can see that. And I prefer these over the plastic ones because in the past I've used the plastic clevises, and I've been fighting fish, and the head shakes have been so violent that the little piece of plastic here will open during that fish because the weight of the blade, and it'll open up, and the blade will go flying, and you're left with a plastic clevis. So I've gone away from those, and you preferred these metal ones from VIP Outdoors. I like them. They're easy on and off. I can change several. I can go to different blades, while I'm driving running the boat, I can just change pop different blades on. And I have some of these already made up, just sitting in my on a spool, just like that. No blades, so that way, and I have a blade. I have a box of blades that, whatever I think is working, it will work. I change it out, and it's just a matter of this Mexican hat from VIP Outdoors. I hate to say it, but so many people have replicated a good thing. This has been, you go to any blade manufacturer right now, and everybody has a Mexican hat. That finish has just been, just it's just a lot of confidence on that in those colors. And everybody has duped. All the different manufacturers have taken that color. I wish Pro would have patented that color and that term, because everybody has a Mexican hat. All his competitors have that pattern because it's on a diagonal, and they have that. So it's a good color, and it's just been working good. People have done their own little things to it, and they've been painting the backs of them and whatever. But I mean, they take this and they make a blade, stamp it out, and they paint it and they put their name on that paint scheme. But good, it's a good product. I've been using them. They've been constantly catching fish. In fact, I've lost maybe 2 or 3 of them, and I've ordered some more, and I just snapped another one on, and they keep working. The same. It's just the color in the blade. So that blade goes on this, and it kind of just goes in. Oh, let me see if I can grab a hold of that. And it goes on and it hangs there, just like that. And I try to keep as many beads on it, just so it's just past the eye of the hook. I don't want it rubbing on my knot, and I don't want it touching my shrimp, but I want it close enough to where it's near the shrimp, and making that attraction. My shrimp will be on that hook, and then this is the stinger hook. But that's kind of the way I like to tie them. You just got to play with the beads. This is the bead selection I chose. The further away this gets, if you put more beads, the further the attraction is going to be away from your line. Not saying it doesn't work. I just like things stealthy and small in proportion. To me, this seems proportioned. It spins well, and it's next to the bait, and all it does is cause some color and vibration. One of the things that fish sense, their sense of salmon, their sense of smell is so acute that it's really, that's one of the main things you're trying to attract, is their sense of smell. So the shrimp is the sense of smell. The other one is vibration. That's the second sense that they have. They have a lateral line down the back of the fish, or down the side of the fish. That senses vibration, and that is, whenever they feel something in the air, wounded or something, they sense that. So you're trying to take advantage of all the fish's senses, the sense of smell, and the sense of vibration, and then sight. The color is the sight, plus the color of the shrimp. So you're trying to appeal to all 3 of those senses to entice a bite. So that's kind of the setup. To that, another 30-pound line. I like 30-pound, and then I go to another crane swivel or barrel swivel. And I like these from Bomac. They work good, and they've been working well. I have enough 6-bead chain swivels in line. There's also a ball chain on the back of these short buses here, and I got a dual lock. I put a dual lock personally on there. When you buy these, they come without a dual lock. You don't get that. You just get the ball chain swivel with the welded ring on there. I put a dual lock on there, so that way I can quickly change out my spinners, or if I feel a line's frayed, I'll change it out, and then I'm back in business. This is like going back to what I was talking about on my walleye video about how to set walleye up. This is a real modular system. I like to be able to remove, put on and off things. With this with this me putting on a dual lock here, if this color wasn't working, which it has been, I go to this and put on my small blade and fish that. It's that simple. If there's folks in my boat and they're using my gear, and we check every time we catch a fish, we're checking leaders and making sure they're not, there's no teeth marks, they're not frayed, and we'll keep fishing. If they are, it's just a quick simple switch out, and it's that easy. I have them tied on a leaderboard. That's kind of what I use. I have spinners on my leaderboard. So that's kind of the way I do things. Now, I got to say, this is just a public service announcement. If you do use these metal spring clevises, be aware that this is metal and this line is some sort of plastic, monofilament. So check this in the course of the day and make sure that you are not fraying your line. Just make sure they are there. I have had instances where some of them, it is metal, and you're pulling it at anywhere from 1 mile an hour to 2 miles an hour. Sometimes to get out of somebody's way, 3 miles an hour when you're trying to go around boat traffic. And these things there's I don't know how many RPMs. I don't want to imagine how many RPMs that thing is doing, but it's doing quite a bit. So that can weaken your line or cause some fraying. So be cautious about that and check if you catch a fish. Go quickly and check your line real quick, and hopefully you have more of these in your box tied up and ready to go. And then just change the blade out and start fishing again. Like on my boat, we try not to change any leaders or try to tie any knots on my boat, and it's just a matter of changing things out. That's kind of all the prep is done at home, and we're just taking leaderboards and switching things in and out. So that's kind of the way I like to do things. It's just a modular system. Everything's interchangeable. And you can go use your imagination to change your beads, whatever color you think. I like a lot of chartreuse. I'm kind of a chartreuse guy, but these red beads have been working, so why change what works? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it works. So that's just another public service announcement with that spring clevis. But I do recommend them. They are a great product. They have, for me, worked really well. Like I said, but I check my lines now after experiences with them. And I've caught a few fish, and I've looked at the line and be like, oh, I don't want to lose that blade. So I've just changed the leader out, and away I went. And took the blade off and put it on another leader. So anyway, be advised. Anyway, so hopefully that helps you guys. If you guys want to know more and you have some questions, feel free to comment. I do use my own shrimp. I make my own. I've made my own here lately. It's been working great. I do take other shrimp manufacturers out with me on the river, so I'm not just stuck with one brand. Sometimes fish, they want something different, whether it be colors, just a little different, small, large, or medium-sized shrimp. It all depends, and depends on how you hook them. I just use everything. I try to buy as many fish or as many shrimps manufacturers out there and carry them in my cooler, as I can, because if one's not working, I'll switch out and try something different, because the chemicals that they use, they may be different than what I'm using, or how their curing process is, and so that's me. I fish a lot of different baits. I'm not loyal to anybody, although my baits have been working. My shrimp has been working extremely well. So the majority of my time I'm fishing my cures until I'm not getting bit. If I'm fishing 3 rods, at least 2 of those will have mine on it, and 2 of my shrimp, and I'll have different companies on another rod. It just depends. If that starts getting bit, we switch. So anyway. Been using, I guess I didn't talk really about the flasher. Been using the short blast flasher. Been using these for this season. Got the double fin. I think these give out a little more tail kick and giving a lot more action to the smile blades and the 3.5 But I started out fishing Pro Trolls. That manufacturer, started the game. I still got a whole box of them. It's just another different tool in my tool chest. They seem to work, and they've consistently put fish in the box for me this spring, because I think with the dual fin at slower speeds, I think they do give a little more tail kick. Whereas if you're in a place in the river where you got a lot more flow coming at you, there's that. A Pro Troll will do the same with the single fin, but since I'm in a place where there's not too much current, then these have been working out. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Put them in the comments. I hope everybody's been having a good day, and I thought I'd share some of those things with you, and hope that helps you out in your fishing endeavors. Anyway, this is Dave. Thank you.